Welcome to a very special episode of the Cross Border Network. Now, as many of you may know, our show typically revolves around municipal issues, municipal leaders, and the local government sphere. But today, I hope that you will indulge me in diverting from the topics of municipalities and focus on an issue that's near and dear to me. On July 25th, 2020, my life changed forever. That day, I received a diagnosis that marked the beginning of a long and transformative journey, one filled with uncertainty, strength, and the unwavering support of a remarkable community. Through hospital visits, treatments, and recovery, I discovered the power of connection, and most importantly, the vital role played by the Brain Tumour Foundation of Canada. Now, over the past few years, I've had the honor of working closely with the incredible organization, especially through the Calgary Brain Tumour Walk, an event that brings people together from all walks of life who have been touched by this disease. And this year, I'll be walking once again, not just for myself, but for every survivor, caregiver, and family member whose life has been impacted by a brain tumor. The Brain Tumour Foundation of Canada is doing more than just raising awareness. They are funding research that is improving treatments, supporting patients across the country with handbooks and support groups, and driving forward the search for a cure. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Ben Seawald, a passionate advocate, a staff member for the Brain Tumour Foundation of Canada, and the host of the Beyond Brain Tumors podcast. Together, we'll talk about what it means to live with a brain tumor, how the foundation is changing lives, and what this year's walk means for all of us. So, whether you're a survivor, a caregiver, a supporter, or even a municipally minded individual, you're part of this story today. And we're so glad you're here. So, let's dive in. Ben, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking about the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada, this upcoming brain tumor walks that kick off on, I believe, May 28th, I apologize, across Canada, and your organization, the Brain Tumor Foundation, and this is not something that I talk about often openly, but it's going to be a topic of discussion that you and I will have. As brain tumor survivors, we are both in a rare position right now to be able to talk about how the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada has helped survivors and helps families and friends. But I want to start, if you don't mind, with a question that's sort of overarching. Can you walk me through your journey to where we are today of how you got involved with the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada and how you are the host of the Beyond Brain Tumor podcast?
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris. I'm really excited for our conversation here today. And I'm happy to lead you through a little bit of my own personal journey, and then we can get into kind of how that has led into a professional career for me as well. So I was 18 years old, and I was living in London, Ontario at the time, finishing up my grade 12 high school year, and I started noticing. I wasn't feeling great. I was taking a lot of naps. There were some headaches, but I presented with double vision, and so that was a bit of a concern. But I was 18, and the last thing on my mind that there was anything seriously wrong. Thought maybe it was a new prescription of contact lenses that I had just got, and so I made an appointment with my eye doctor, my optometrist. He found some blurring in the discs behind my eyes, and then sent me to the hospital for a scan. So at the time, I didn't realize, and I said, can I do this next week? I've got work, and he kind of said, I think you should get this done. So I went and I had the scan. They found a brain tumor growing off the roof of my left ventricle, and I was scheduled actually for surgery a week later. So I mean, again, it's kind of weird to say this, but I was super fortunate that I was able to have the surgery kind of a week later, that I was 18 years old and I was able to recover pretty much fully. I mean, for all intents and purposes. And I didn't have any chemotherapy or radiation. So the tumor pathology came back. It was benign, but it was a little bit tricky to get out. And so I had to learn how to walk again and how to talk again, which is a bit of a struggle for, I think, an 18-year-old man who, you know, thought himself was invincible. And for a lot of, I think, my friends, it was a bit of a challenge as well. But I mean, my family and my support network was so fantastic, and I was really able to recover fully and go to university, um, and then I kind of did what everybody does after university. I moved into my parents' basement for a little while, but then I went back into the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada because I knew the services that they provided. And I kind of said, listen, I've got a lot of time on my hands. What do you, I'll stuff envelopes, I'll do whatever you need. And I actually got a job right out of university at Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada in 2003. And that led to a bit of a first career where I was kind of managing the walkathon programs then I took a little bit of time away from the brain tumor community. I moved to Kingston, Ontario. I got a job at Queen's University. I met my partner. We have a phenomenal 9-year-old daughter. And a couple of years ago, the team reached out to me and they had an opportunity, again, a staff role. And so I was able to join the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada officially for the second time a couple of years ago, in a different capacity. And so here I am today. It'll be 29 years this summer that I will have had my connection with Brain Tumor Foundation Canada.
You Not all journeys are like that though, and I think we've all heard different stories, and I hear some of the things that you were talking about, and I can put myself in that position because when I was one of those, my family is like, you don't go to the hospital until you like bleeding or your legs actually chopped off. So for me it wasn't until my husband said we should go to an optometrist because you're having vision problems with your vision. I was like, whatever, whatever. And then he went, I was like, maybe I should. And they're like, yeah, you need glasses and you should be wearing glasses like yesterday. And then 2 weeks later, when they come in and they do the prescription check, just to make sure, they're like, your vision has changed so much. We need to figure out what's going on with you. So while you're telling your story, I was like, I'm putting myself in your Ben's shoes here, but at the same time, other people and everyone's different, has different stories to tell and different ways they sort of connect with the Brain Tumor Foundation. In your time with the foundation, you hear a lot of these stories, and I am not trying to go really negative really quickly, but it's a serious condition that a lot of people deal with on a day-to-day basis. 1 in 27 Canadians are diagnosed with it. When you look at your path and your journey, I just want to go back to that moment when they told you you had a tumor, because I remember that day for me. It was my birthday of all things.
Oh, goodness.
For you, I didn't know what a tumor was. I thought it was cancerous. I thought I've got like a year to live and this is going to be the rest of me. Did you know what a tumor was? Did you know what was going on with in your head at that time? Or were you like so many other Canadians, so oblivious and needing to sort of find sort of support? And that's where the Brain Tumor Foundation came in.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's why I kind of clearly try to articulate every time I tell my story of how fortunate that I am through my journey and just the tremendous privilege that I've had to be able to kind of experience the medical side of a diagnosis like this. But really, yeah, my journey is kind of best case scenario. So yeah, in all of the time that I've worked with Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada, of course, we hear just the most heartbreaking stories. And it's tremendously unfortunate. There and the numbers are actually extremely shocking. I didn't know any of this when I was 18 years old. It was 1996. So yeah, to your point, 27 Canadians every day will hear that news. And so I was just there was 26 other people on the same day that I got my diagnosis that also got a brain tumor diagnosis, according to the statistics and the numbers. And so I remember, I still didn't clue in. I had the scan. I waited in the hospital for hours, and I was sitting on a gurney, just being like, I gotta get out of here. Like, what's going on? And then the doctor came in and, very somber and said, listen, the scan doesn't look too good. We see something on the scan that looks like a brain tumor. Um, we'll need to figure out what next steps look like. And it was just this kind of rush of sound and rush of, the lights. Everything else just kind of closed in around me. But it was interesting with my specific situation. My parents were actually out of town as well, and my brother and sister were at kind of military camp for the summers. So like I was on my own, and so I didn't know what to do, what my next steps looked like. And so we ended up getting in touch with my parents. They drove all through the night and got back to London and were there when I woke up the next day. But it was I think about in my life, times that I've really felt alone. Like that was, I think that was probably the bottom. That was kind of the baseline comparative for any other time in my life. And so it provides me definitely, I mean, strength and resilience in tough times to know that, like if if you write that story and tell that story to anybody 100 times out of 100 times, you think, okay, then that's the worst possible scenario. Um, but the fact that I was able to make it through and I was able to, have the life that I've had for the last 29 years, I am so grateful and fortunate to the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada for the support, the information that they provided, and just the connection that I was able to experience with people who understood my situation and scenario, and that the outpouring of caring and yeah, just empathy. It was incredible.
Just playing off you here for a second because like yourself, unlike yourself, I wasn't alone because, like I said, it was my birthday and I had friends over. And you don't go home and tell people who are about to celebrate your birthday, "Hey, I have a brain tumor." But I literally didn't want to talk to anyone, but I had to suck it up for a good 24 hours until they left. And then that's when I then told my husband that this was diagnosed because you don't want to ruin everything that he had planned. So I understand where you're coming from. And then you have to remember at this, when I was diagnosed, it was the height of COVID-19.
Right?
So, like you talk about that isolation, you
Yeah.
don't get support groups, you don't get that in-person connection. We're doing this virtually, this interview, but there are times when you need that support group, and you can't really do that when you're uh, in COVID-19 and you have to reduce your numbers that are people around you, especially with a tumor, because there are really bad things that could happen. But I want to talk about the role that the Brain Tumor Foundation has played in the support of families, of friends, of those people, Canadians who are going through this, I want to say horrible journey, and I don't want to make it sound glib, but it is a horrible journey that you're about to go on when you get diagnosed because there's a lot of unknowns and there's a lot of days where you're tired, you're in pain, and I'm not trying to downplay the things that you have to go through. From your perspective as someone who's now works for the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada, where does the foundation come into supporting people who are about to go through this journey?
Yeah. So the mission of the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada is to reach every person in Canada affected by a brain tumor through support, education, information, advocacy, and through funding research. The vision of the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada is to find the cause and a cure for brain tumors while improving the quality of life for those affected. So there's a couple of things in that I really want to kind of pull out and focus on. So every person affected by a brain tumor diagnosis, that's not just the patients or the survivors. That is the entire family. That's siblings, that's parents, that's, you know, aunts, uncles, grandparents. That is really providing that support and education and information and advocacy for the families, anybody who's kind of having to deal with an unfortunate brain tumor diagnosis. So really, I mean, we don't want any of those people to be alone through this process or have any questions about information. I mean, I think my daughter would kind of say, we got you, fam, right? Like we want to make sure that you have the support and information that you might need during this tremendously challenging and difficult time. And
And
really,
I just want to
sorry, yeah.
just want to pick up on here for a second because I want to make sure I put this out there because you're based in Ontario, but as the name suggests, you are a Canadian-based organization. So while I'm here in Calgary, I knew about the organization. I got the pamphlets, I got all the numbers that I'm supposed to reach out to when I was diagnosed. But you work with people in Quebec, Atlantic Canada, up in the northern parts of Canada, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, British Columbia, Manitoba. So you are truly a cross country. While you may not have a brick and mortar shop in every province, you do work with communities across Canada.
That's right. Yeah. And we really commit ourselves to engaging volunteers right throughout Canada. Our board of directors is very geographically diverse, and we do our best to meet the needs of the individuals where they are. The
Oh,
sorry,
go
yeah.
ahead.
From the very beginning. So again, I don't know how much you know about the kind of the evolution of Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada, but it started in 1981. And it was an 8-year-old girl named Kelly who was first diagnosed. And at that time, there was very little organized support or research for specifically brain tumors being conducted. Patients diagnosed often struggled alone with their physical and emotional effects of the disease. Treatment options were tremendously limited, and the emotional effects of the disease were substantial. So in 1982, after Kelly unfortunately passed, her father, Steve Northey, and Dr. Rolando Del Mastro, a neurosurgeon, his wife, Pamela, who is a neuroscience nurse, sat down around a kitchen table and decided to create a resource for families in a similar situation. And really what that was it was kind of the very first Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada resource handbook. It had kind of information about different tumor types. It had treatment options. It had all of that kind of information for 1982. Really was kind of unthinkable that all of this information could be collected in one place. Over the years, the last 40 plus years, Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada has really now developed into a nationwide support network and really has grown to both in-person and online support programs, delivering best-in-class information, um, adult, pediatric, non-malignant, malignant, metastasized tumors, specific information for caregivers. Really, we try to be kind of what is needed for each individual kind of different journey.
Oh, the handbook is a very useful tool. It is something that I think we still have a copy of it on the side of our bed because even 5 years later, and don't get me wrong, I'm still not out of my journey. I still have days that things go sideways and we have to get rushed to the hospital. And then there's days that I feel just like my normal self when I was 18 years old. The role that the foundation has played in support of my family has been one of the most eye-opening experiences because for myself, I'm thinking I'm going through this myself and by myself, but the family is also a core support in helping community, helping people who have been diagnosed. What specific programs are available for family members, for I want to say survivors, because I think at the end of the day, we all believe we're going to survive, and we're all going to survive, in my opinion. What specific programs does the foundation offer to make sure that they're being impactful in the day-to-day lives of people who are going through this journey?
Yeah, as you know all too well, brain tumor diagnosis can change everything at the drop of a hat. And Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada is here to kind of help anyone along that journey navigate questions. How long am I going to live with a brain tumor? And you are absolutely not alone. What are the signs and symptoms that I should be looking for? Kind of working with your healthcare team. What are the different types of brain tumors? And there's over 120 different types, which each can present very differently depending on their grade, their location in the brain, um, all of those factors. And so the foundation is built to answer all or any of those questions, either through the 1-800 support line. The resource handbook, as you mentioned, is a phenomenal resource, and we try and get that out free of charge to anybody who asks. So that, I mean, here we are in the time when information is power. This is such a powerful tool for a lot of our community. So, we have in-person support groups. We have online support groups. As social creatures, I think people really do need people. The Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada support groups, I can't say enough good things about my experiences when I was kind of needing that support and level of connection, both at the kind of when I was diagnosed, but then also in my first kind of time at Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada. I would go and connect with other individuals and talk to them about my experiences and unpack some of the challenges that I had. Again, I think that just that person to person sharing is so important as well. I mean, we've got a children's resource handbook, or a children's storybook that kind of walks through the story of a little girl named Hope and her journey being diagnosed with a brain tumor, how she interacts with her classmates, how she kind of talks about her treatment. So there's a number of, I think, things that we do, as well as kind of we have a pediatric brain tumor program for families. So families who have children under the age of 19 who have been diagnosed with a brain tumor can join this brainwave program, and the children can gain a little bit of respite and some time away from the kind of the needles and the appointments and the hospitals. But also the patients, the caregivers, the family members can get together and share challenges and be around people who just understand what this kind of diagnosis can mean. We have a
Just want to make
podcast. So
I just want to make sure I just want to put this on the record for those who are
yeah.
listening because they might be going, "Oh, that's a lot of information Ben just spilled out." The information that we're talking about, it can be found on the Brain Tumor Foundation website, which is braintumor.ca. The 1-800 number is there. The resources that you can reach out, the online support groups are there. The podcast, which Ben hosts, is there as well, which we're going to talk about in 2 seconds. But it's braintumor.ca. The links are in the show notes. For those who are watching this on TV, head over to crossborderinterviews.ca. The links are in the show notes on the website. But also, if you want and if you can, Brain Tumor, all one word, tumor as the Canadian spelling of tumor.ca, and you can find all the information that Ben is talking about there. Continue on, Ben.
Oh, thank you so much. And that's it. I mean, there's there's so much information, and the fact that we do have all of it available on the website. And if I'm also happy to answer any questions if anybody wants to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to help them navigate that, because it can be a lot. So, I mean, we host webinars with healthcare professionals about topics of interest to the brain tumor community. We host podcasts, same thing with members of the brain tumor community. I'm the host. Hopefully, kind of once a month-ish, we will be sharing kind of a new episode, but really kind of celebrating the strength and resiliency of the community, but also kind of shedding light on some of the more difficult aspects of this journey. I mean, Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada, my opinion is that it's very unique in the fact that it is so hopeful, and it leads with heart. And so we again just want to make sure that everybody realizes that they don't have to go through this alone. There is so much strength and resiliency, and no matter where you are in your journey, just we celebrate your strength and appreciate you being a beacon of hope to everyone else around you.
Research, funding, diagnoses have come a long way since that 1981 little girl in Ontario. And what used to be momentary life sentence is now something that has gone leaps and bounds. How has the foundation helped the brain tumor research go into an area where people don't need to feel like it is a lost cause anymore?
Yeah, research obviously I think is the most obvious area to focus on when talking about kind of hope and what the future of a diagnosis like this could look like. Since 1982, Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada has funded over $10 million in direct research funding. Um, that funding specifically has helped improve the accuracy of radiation treatments, shortened regime times, limited side effects from chemotherapy, improved the quality of life for patients after surgery. Um, Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada is the sole funder of the Brain Tumor Tissue Bank, which provides free samples to clinical researchers around the world. Uh, Fun fact, I actually had a sample of my brain tumor in the tissue bank since my brain tumor was pretty rare for somebody so young. So my brain tumor potentially could have got sent all around the world for researchers to take a look at. But really, at the end of the day, Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada understands the responsibility and the hope to fund the next step and the next clinical breakthrough that will improve the situation for the brain tumor community.
One of the big areas that the Brain Tumor Foundation does for fundraising to help fund this research is coming up. And that is the kickoff of the Brain Tumor Foundation Walk. It is getting started here shortly with the flagships all across Canada. One of them happening here in Calgary, Alberta. Another one happening in Winnipeg, in the Greater Toronto Area, I believe Ottawa, Edmonton, and I'm probably forgetting one more right now, and it's going to bother me. But the dates and times will be on the screen at the end of the episode, so check those out. And then there's also smaller community walks as well that are happening in Aurora, Waterton. I'm going to try and name all of them: Sudbury, Yukon, Fort McMurray, and I believe there's one more, and it's going to bother me until I remember that. But there's a
Kingston,
lot.
which is
Kingston,
where I
that's
am.
right. I
Yeah,
should know
yeah,
that. That's my old stomping ground. I went to
yeah.
Queen's University. I should know that it's
Amazing.
happening at Kingston, Ontario.
Yeah.
But this year, the name of the or the theme of the walk is United by Numbers. Why is that significant this year?
Yeah, really, we're kind of looking that every number, specifically with the brain tumor community, tells a story. So whether it's the 27 Canadians who are diagnosed with a brain tumor each and every day, whether it's the 120 different types of brain tumors, whether it's the countless steps taken by our community in the fight for a cure, every number reflects the impact that we're making together. So I mean, we both know how overwhelming some of the brain tumor numbers can feel, but together we're going to really commit to changing what they mean. So my little plug is that your participation in the 2025 Brain Tumor Walks will support critical research, advocacy, education, and better treatments throughout Canada. The Brain Tumor Walks this year are going to bring our communities together and really highlight the strength behind all of those numbers, turning them into real life-changing research and support.
For those who are listening, Ben gave his little plug, so I'm going to give my little plug here right now. All advertisement, all subscriptions, all advertisements that this show brings in for the month of May and June will be donated to the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada through their walk this year. So if you support the Cross Border Network, you will be supporting the Brain Tumor Foundation and all the great work that they do. I know for myself, for my family, it has been an honest to goodness godsend. And there were dark moments, and they helped me get through some of those dark moments. Not saying my husband didn't either, and I need to put that in there because if I didn't, he would be having a very strongly worded conversation if he saw this. So all advertising, all subscriptions that we get for the month of May and June will be donated to the Brain Tumor Foundation through the Brain Tumor Foundation Walk, which the links will be in the show notes. Support us so that way we can say at least we were the top 10 in Calgary. I should put it there. But where does the money go from the foundation? So for those who are donating, the honest goodness question that I often get is, where does the money go? Is it strictly to research? Because there's some, and I'm not saying Brain Tumor Foundation does this, but there are some organizations that take some money and then they only give like 5% to research. How does the funding from the Brain Tumor Walk help research and help programs for those who are going through this?
Yeah, thank you. And it's a really important question. I think a lot of people now are looking at kind of responsibility of not-for-profits in the sector. And Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada is tremendously committed to making sure that every dollar raised is put back into the mission of the organization. So, I can't remember percentages, and so I'm just going to talk kind of in broad strokes a little bit, but research is absolutely one of the areas that we require funding um, to choose and bring forward some of the important research projects that are happening. In 2025, we've got our major research focus is on glioblastoma research, which you may have heard that in the news. Michael Bolton was just kind of in the news about his recent glioblastoma diagnosis. And so we are focusing on the areas that I think need research focus. But at the end of the day, there's also all of the other things that Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada does provide and needs funding for. So the handbooks, for example, right? Those, I mean, it costs money to print those handbooks. We have to, every year, we have to make sure that they are current with the information. Also needs staff time, and, mailing them out is unfortunately not free. So we require funds to provide the resources that we have. As well, we've got a phenomenal program. I just want to do a little quick shout out to our Youth Education Awards. So these have been happening now for 11 years. They are open to any survivors of a pediatric brain tumor from the ages of, I think it's 18 to 29, who are pursuing post-secondary education. So Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada gives them a funding help and helps with their tuition. And so for the last 11 years, we've provided these educational scholarships. And so again, I mean, this is one of the things that we can do to help brain tumor survivors specifically who have challenges and need just that little extra boost, because a lot of these pediatric survivors, given their journeys, either can't work because of their physical limitations, or their parents had to take time off work during their treatment. And so there's some really, really terrific programs that Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada does fund. And if we can, I'm just going to mention one specific. It's the greatest story. So there was an individual who won who was the recipient of a 2021 Youth Education Award, and so she had her surgery. She was named the 2021 award recipient, and then she's got a video you can find on our YouTube channel about her then working over the summer with her neurosurgeon in the lab during her master's program. So there's some really phenomenal stories of the success of some of these individuals who have really overcome some pretty challenging situations and are now succeeding at a level that I think are even beyond their own wildest dreams. So there's some really amazing things that are happening. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to kind of the individuals, and if people are interested in standing up and supporting Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada with us.
And they should. And I'll say that, and I'll say that over and over again until I'm 6 feet underground. You should. It is an amazing organization. It is an organization near and dear to my heart. As I said at the intro, I have volunteered my time, my energy, my effort, even during the darkest days, during my radiation bouts, to help make the Calgary Brain Tumor Foundation walk a success. I'm looking forward to getting out this year and walking, but I can imagine that the Brain Tumor Foundation doesn't stop doing their support and their research and their fundraising after the walk is over with on July 10th or 15th or whatever day the last walk is. What other ways can Canadians from coast to coast to coast help the Brain Tumor Foundation outside of the walk? And how can they get involved? Because there might be people who say, I'm a survivor and I don't know where the first step is. Is it just to call Ben up and say, Ben, how can I get involved? Or what's the next step?
I mean, absolutely, that's an option. I would love if that started to happen. That would be terrific. But absolutely, I think that from my perspective, there's a couple of key things that I wish I had known at a time when I was also kind of, in my recovery phase and looking to, maybe give back. But there's a couple of really key things. And so the first thing is for anyone to spread the word. So to advocate, to amplify our message, and really get that word out. Brain tumors are still kind of not on the same level as, there's other cancers and breast cancer, everybody knows, but brain tumors are still a little bit behind from some of the awareness standpoints. And so that would be my number one request to anybody. If they are affected by Brain Tumor Foundation, or if they are affected by a brain tumor diagnosis, like talk about it and share your journey and share your story and normalize talking about brain tumors.
But I'm going to
Yeah,
play a little devil's advocate with here,
yeah,
Ben, because
yeah,
I find this, and I agree. Talking about something more and more gets it on the national stage. Talking about it in an open conversation is great. But, and this is the big but, and I don't know about you, but I'm gonna go back to my days. At first, when I was diagnosed, I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want to talk about it because the very first thing I knew was going to happen, and it happened, and I will be the first to admit that it was unique to me. It may not be everyone's story. I started telling people I have a brain tumor, and the very first thing people started saying was, "How can I help you? What can I do for you? Are you okay? What do you need from me?" I'm like, "Well, I don't need anything from you. I'm just letting you know that this is what's going on in my life." So there is that double-edged sword, and I'm not trying to say we don't need to talk about it. We do, but it's a gradual learning experience. It can't just happen like the day after you get diagnosed, like, oh, celebrate everyone, congratulations, we have a brain tumor. No, there's an evolving process that you have to go through, correct?
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, I've seen firsthand a lot of people who are newly diagnosed just want to get back to their pre-diagnosis self, right? And I understand that, and I understand what that means, and I understand that thought process. And a big part of me as well was very much kind of entrenched in that mode as well. So maybe I'll adjust my biggest piece of information, or my request. Advocate to the level that you feel comfortable, and spread the word kind of as far as you feel comfortable as well. If people
No,
do, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I'm not trying to say that like that's not the right way to do it. I'm just saying, like right now in 2025, like if you would have asked me to go tell the story as much as I possibly can in 2020, I would have said, Ben, I apologize, but I just don't feel comfortable. 2025, Chris, I'm saying we need to help. I have the hardest part about the journey that I went through is you get to know so many great people. You get to know so many great people when you're going through those, when you're sitting in those chairs for chemo, when you're going to the radiation beds, and then you start hearing stories about those people who've lost their lives because of it. And that's the moment when I went, okay, I can no longer be a passive user of the program. I need to start being a reactive and sort of aggressive promoter of this program. And that's why I'm so happy that you're coming on the show to do this, because I think more people need to know about the Brain Tumor Foundation, because 1 in 27 people, you and I are one of those 1 in 27 people. I was diagnosed on my birthday. I know other people like that like get diagnosed on like a Tuesday or Wednesday. But I remember walking in, it was 9 o'clock in the morning, and they told me, you need to come in and see us because we need to see you as soon as possible. I'm like, well, this isn't good. So I understand that there are moments that there's going to be some challenge, but that moment when I clicked in, I said, There's 27 people today, as of recording this on February 9th, who are getting that word, those words
Yeah.
spoken to them. We need them to know. We
Yeah.
need the 27 tomorrow on May 10th, May 11th to know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
And when I first diagnosed, I thought I was alone. And now knowing what the Brain Tumor Foundation has done, and I apologize, I know you're the guest, but I'm very passionate about this. And I think more and more people, and that's why when the Brain Tumor Foundation and I were working together for this walk, I said, how can I help?
Yeah.
And this is how we're doing it. Ben, continue on.
No, and you hit the nail on the head. This is exactly it. And I understand that everybody's journey is a little bit different and unique. But that's a very common situation where there are so many phenomenal human beings that are kind of wrapped up in this journey. And like you said, some of the most incredible people that I have ever met in my life are because of my connection to the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada. And at the end of the day, it's not fair. A lot of people, um, really phenomenal, terrific people, are not around anymore because of brain tumors. And I am dedicating my life to making sure that that happens less. I'm not going to say stops, but in my lifetime, I want to see that happen less. And so yeah, I mean, further to what we all can do, get involved. So Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada is recruiting for volunteers across a number of different areas. You can get involved with the Brainwave program, helping children and families kind of navigate their journeys. You can get involved in various committees that we have, our board of directors. You can tangibly make a difference in the lives of so many amazing and terrific people through Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada. And then, I mean, if you are able and have the means, fund development work. So raising money for Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada through the walk, through events that you might want to put on, soccer tournaments, golf tournaments, garage sales. We have a really great program to support that through you can build your own website. Um, we have ideas, tip sheets, sponsor letters, online platforms that can amplify your message. Um, Honestly, we will work with you to make the difference in your community that needs to be made. But at the end of the day, we would just appreciate so much if people just kind of like stood up and kind of started taking notice. Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada absolutely 100% appreciates, but also needs your support.
Could not agree more. And the best starting point, and the best starting point I got told was visit braintumor.ca to learn more about the great resources that the organization plays. That's braintumor.ca. Before I let you go, because I'm cautious of time and I know you're a busy man, um, what haven't we talked about that you want people to know about? What's the one thing that you hope people take away from this conversation today when they listen to it, when they see it, when they get sent it via whoever sends it to them? What do you hope people take away?
I think I'll end with the beginning, and I will want to make sure that anyone who is navigating this diagnosis knows that they're not alone. Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada is here to support you through education, through information, through advocacy with the pharmaceutical companies, but also the government, through support, either in person or online, and by funding brain tumor research. So we are here. We will find the best way possible to support you where you are and how you need, but you are not alone. Again, I'll go back to what my daughter says. We got you, fam.
And it is a family at heart.
Yeah.
Ben, I truly want to take a moment and thank you for sitting down with me and doing this interview. Um, this show came from my diagnosis. So when I was diagnosed, I was told by my father, do something that you love. And I love chatting to people. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on and chatting with me and being part of my journey because at the end of the day, the people we connect with, the people we interact with on a day-to-day life, are a part of our journey. So thank you so much for being part of the journey. Thank you so much for representing the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada well. And I look forward to potentially meeting you in person when I come back and visit my old alma mater of Queen's University sometime. And we'll go grab a coffee at one of the downtown pubs. I can't remember which one they're called because they're probably all closed from when I was at university. So thanks so much, Ben.
Amazing. Chris, this was just such a pleasure. Thank you.
We want to take a moment and thank everyone for tuning in for this very special episode of the Cross Border Interviews. Now, there are many great Brain Tumor flagship walks coming up across Canada, including the Toronto GTA area on Saturday, May 31st, in Calgary, Saturday, June 7th, in London, Ontario, Saturday, June 14th, in Edmonton, Alberta, Saturday, June 21st, in Ottawa, Ontario, Saturday, June 21st, and in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Saturday, June 28th. To learn more about these walks and where they will be hosted, visit braintumor.ca. Now, if your community isn't hosting a flagship walk, community groups across Canada are joining forces to hold their own community walks in other communities, including on June 1st in Sudbury, Ontario, June 8th in Brandon, Manitoba. On June 14th, there will be a walk in Whitehorse, Yukon. On June 28th, in Fort McMurray, Alberta, there will be a walk. And in Kingston on June 15th, there will be a walk as well. Watertown, Ontario, there will be a walk on June 22nd. And in Aurora, Ontario, on July 5th. Now, we hope you've enjoyed today's conversation and gained some valuable insights into the work that the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada is doing. To stay in the loop with all of our latest episodes on this show and our sister shows, don't forget to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform or by following us on social media. For even more content and learn more about the stories and the people we feature on this show and all of our sister shows, visit us online at crossborderinterviews.ca. Now, your support means the world to us. So share this episode with your friends, your family, and even those who have been diagnosed with brain tumors. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll be back for our regular scheduled programming next week. Until then, everyone, thanks for tuning in.